Okay, the third movie, the movie you'd expect to be the best of the week. And guess what? For me, it definitely was the best of the week. And that's the movie Ron by Akira Kurosawa. 40th anniversary reissue. I believe it's probably making it into a few theaters. And if you're like me, and Ron has always been a bit of a homework movie, or you're like me, and I've seen, what have I seen? Like at least four or five. I need to see more. There's probably at least five or six Kurosawa movies that are on my list of I need to get to them, and I always don't get to them. And I'm always happy when I do watch them, like Akiru ended up being fantastic. And of course, The Seven Samurai is great, and Rashomon's great. And I forget, oh, Dreams is great. But there's a few big ones I haven't seen. I know Redbeard is a favorite of Greg. High and Low, I'd like to see a lot. Yojimbo, I haven't seen. I haven't seen Theater of Blood. There's a bunch of big ones I haven't seen. I really want to. And Ron was one of those. And it's funny when Greg had sent this out to us that said that, hey, this is out. There's a screener of it. I think it's been about 10 years since they made the 4K version of this. And now they're doing the 40th anniversary reissue of it for people to kind of catch up to it that are younger or like me who should have seen it and didn't. And Greg had mentioned that he remembered seeing the Siskel and Ebert review of this, and I do too. I was a huge fan of Siskel and Ebert in the basically in the beginning, like when they were doing it on public broadcasting. And they kind of were a big part of helping me kind of broaden my horizons into more art movies and really just getting more experimental and just trying things that I wouldn't. And I remember them loving Ron and them going over and over about how fantastic it was. So this movie had a lot to live up to for me. And it kind of is one of those movies that feels like homework for a lot of people. And I don't think I'd probably include it too. I like, I want to watch it. I think it's going to be good, but I kind of don't get around to it. Anyway, long story, still long. It's a fantastic movie. Now, what's your basic? It's pretty much known as a version of King Lear. This was directed in the later section of Akira Kurosawa's life. He was in his 70s, I believe, when he filmed this. His eyesight was nearly gone. He'd been trying to develop this movie for about 10 years by the time it actually came to fruition. I believe it was the most expensive Japanese movie made at the time. And at this time, Kurosawa in Japan was kind of out of vogue. Like he had his heyday in the 60s, especially like late 50s, early in the 60s throughout. But by the 70s and 80s, he just was kind of considered like he was done as far as Japanese and cinema was. And in fact, he was having to get like international funding for a lot of his films. I think this movie is a co-production of a French Japanese co-production. So he had to get money from other countries, which seems kind of crazy, right? It would be like, I don't know, who do we have now? I don't know, you get a Kubrick or a Spielberg or just somebody who we consider a renowned filmmaker, not being able to get funding and having to go. I guess you say Coppola recently had to get his own funding for his movie. The difference is Coppola made Megalopolis and I made Ron. Much different. Like I said, it's a King Lear adaptation. I'm not a huge reader of Shakespeare. I've read, once again, just like Kurosawa, I've done a lot of the basics, but King Lear is not one that's under my belt. Basic story here is you've got this lord, this is kind of a samurai era Japan, and this lord, Hidetora Lord Monji. And Hidetora is getting to the point where he wants to hang up the sword. He wants to hang up the katana. He's had it all. He's basically been in wars and battles most of his life, but he has conquered the area around him and he basically owns this whole area. He's got multiple castles. And at the beginning of this movie, they're on a boar hunt and they're all sitting around afterwards. He's there with his three sons and a bunch of other people that follow him and a few other lords in the area, but he's obviously the bigwig. He's the one that runs the joint. And Hidetora says, like, I've had it all, and now I want to hand this to my children. I want to divide up my kingdom among my children. And he just goes to this thing and he says, child number one, I'm going to give you the main castle and you run the things. Child number two, you get this castle. Child number three, you get this castle. And for the rest of my life, as a retired warlord, I'm going to just go and live for a time with each of you. And there's Lord or son number one, Taro, is great. I love it. You are awesome. You're the best guy ever. Son number two, Jiro, he's awesome. You are the best. Love you, Dad. Let's do this. And then son number three, Saburo, says, you're crazy. This is a terrible idea. People are corrupt, and no matter what, it's not going to work. And the father has tried to tell them how to do this by getting three arrows. And first he gives them each an arrow individually and he says, break this arrow. And of course they break it easily. And then he gives them each a bundle of three arrows. And he says, now break it all three. And son number one tries to break the arrows and it's not strong enough because bundled together they're stronger. And of course he's telling him a parable. Son number two, same thing. Son number three, the one that's, you're crazy. What are you doing, man? He just bends it over his knee and says, people are going to find a way to break these arrows. He's like the voice of reason, but also he's the voice of reason to the guy who's like the most powerful guy in the land. That's dangerous. And dad immediately is just, Saburo, you are banished. I'm angry with you. Banish you. And his number one man, Rose number one man says, no, he's right. He's speaking from the heart. You should listen to him. I banish you too. So those two get banished immediately. So then the rest of the movie, gosh, this is a good movie. It's so good. I talked about earlier how you say a movie's beautiful and that could be a knock against it, kind of, because nothing else is going for it. This thing has everything going for it, and it's really beautiful, and it's epic in a way that you are not epic anymore. So you think of epic battle scenes, I don't know, like Helm's Deep in The Lord of the Rings. It's considered one of the best siege, giant armies attacking a fortress. Sure, those are great looking, but it's CGI and composites and all these kind of effects. In this movie, there is a central battle scene. There's several battle scenes, but there's a central battle scene that not only in the story, the narrative, it has huge character importance. So you understand what's happening to a character during this huge battle scene directly in the middle of this movie. But also, it is epic and beautiful and shot in a way that is fantastic, amazing, striking, visually one of the best battles ever put on film, if not right up there in the top, probably five battle scenes ever put on film. And if you take that and take away any battle scenes that have CGI, and you just use battle scenes that have real people in it, that becomes an even shorter list. And this is very close to the top of that list too. And I think he had 1,200 extras. Each of them had handmade armor. It took 2 years or 3 years to make the armor. And then there was like 200 or 300 horses. And he does this great thing where it's like you have the different armies. And I'm not going to say who the armies are because discovering the pieces of this movie are fantastic. But the armies, like each soldier has a little flag that basically is like strapped to his back. I don't know if that was a thing at the time, but apparently that was. So you have yellow flags on a whole set of one army and red flags on a whole set of the other army. So it's easy to follow like who's with whom throughout this movie because they have different colored flags. Super easy and super nice and visually and colorfully striking. And then the one thing about this battle sequence that's so amazing is when it gets to that point, and this is the only time he kind of does this stylistic thing in the movie, but when it gets to that point, the sound effects, like the horses and the battling and the cracking and the flying arrows and all this stuff, all those sounds fall out of the movie. And just the score is in there and some voices, but mostly just the score. So it becomes like almost this silent, it's not there's music obviously, but it almost becomes this silent battle in the midst of this incredible violence and just totally mega epic events that are going on around as you're watching it. It's also a hugely emotionally devastating moment in the center of the movie. But last, I'll just kind of go back really quickly as far as the narrative goes. What's really interesting as this goes on, though, is once you have this Lord who has given away his power to his three sons, essentially the movie from that point forward is him dealing with the repercussions of the life he's lived. Like he's lived a life where he has basically used violence and war to attain everything. And then the entire movie becomes an unraveling and a discovery and a discussion in a movie form of how do all of those demons, how does that karma that he's built up come back to you in the end of your life? He just wants to live in peace and let his sons rule the world, but the world isn't the way that he wants it to be, and it never was because he got there at the edge of a sword. So how's that going to come back to him? And how are his three sons going to become treacherous or non-treacherous? And you have to throw in there, and I have to mention her, Lady, played by Mieko Harada, is so good as a character. And you can call her a villain. You can call her a villain in like almost a Lady Macbeth style villain, like who is conspiring and conniving, or You could call her, I don't know, you could call her the hero in a sense, if you want to look at her as someone who's trying to finally get justice. But whatever you might say, her character is fantastic and gives an energy to the second half of this movie that is very needed because, like I mentioned before, there is no intermission, but that huge battle sequence I talked about is essentially right in the center of this movie. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that leads up to that, and there's a fallout of that. And the fallout of that leaves our Lord in a situation that makes him a little less dynamic, although what's happening to him is very important and interesting. But the second half of this movie also really kind of turns a lot on the actions and the manipulations of Lady Kieda and what she's all about. There's a scene, once again, I'm not going to say much. People who've seen the movie know what I'm talking about. I want to leave it kind of unknown because I bet there's a ton of people, younger than me mostly, I'm sure, but 30 or younger, I bet there's a ton of people who've never seen Ron. And if you're a lover of film, especially classic, great film that you haven't seen, this is one I'd say get under your belt. But there's a scene that involves a character sending someone off to say, "Get me the head of a person." And the way that subplot plays out, and there's a lot of interesting subplots in this movie too. I haven't even talked about. There's a lot of characters that go different directions, but that bring me the head of somebody subplot is amazing in its own right. The way that plays out. And I won't say anything else. You can probably get the idea that I love this movie, and I do love it. It's very fantastic. 5 stars, classic. I expect you get overhyped on these classic movies, and a lot of times they disappoint you. And they do a lot of times for me as well. But every so often I get one of these that are hyped as 5 star classics, and they really are a 5 star classic to me. And I just think about it and I love it, and it's just so good. And even just to the point of the last shot of this movie is something as you're watching the whole movie that you would not expect. It's not a character you've been following most of the movie, but you do know who the character is and what their story is. And it's such I don't know, it's such an unconventional way to end this movie compared to what I would have thought it would have been. But it also is kind of the perfect ending for the movie as you start thinking about it and as you start seeing it. Just little things like that. And just, oh, I can't even go on anymore. I'll gush too much about this movie. So once again, 5 star classic, Ron. You can find this in a lot of different places. If you have a large screen and you have 4K abilities, I'd say go for that. But it's worth watching in whatever format you've got.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. For more movie and television reviews and interviews, please subscribe to my Deepest Dream channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. And as always, thanks so much for your support. Take care.